I think because it's so methodical and you can get into a rhythm. It's almost like, I don't meditate, but it is like an active meditation in a way. It allows your mind to wander, which I love as well. But I think the orderedness of being able to have a plan, and then it always changes, but it's a beautiful part of the process, all the steps involved. They're mainly informed by the materials, really. The materials are a limitation and an inspiration as well, and I look at what I have and what sort of idea I want to create, something dense, something loose, something patterned, something plain, what can be layered, what can be used together, and the practical considerations, and it all forms some sort of design. It's more the interplay of materials and patterns and scales that I'm interested in, and what is inherent in the materials that I can bring out. Tactility of materials, I think that's what drew me to weaving in the first place anyway. And that's probably why I end up not using a lot of colour, because sometimes just their raw state is already so beautiful to me. I actually start by winding the warp. So on that warping mill that my grandpa made, I'll essentially take a cone of yarn and start winding it onto there. So you wind it so that there's a cross essentially in it, so that it tells you the order of each yarn, which keeps everything in line and organised. And then you tie it at certain points so that it can't really get too tangled. And then you chain it, which is essentially just hand knitting it, which keeps it from getting too tangled. There we go, and it's all organised, and you can store it or leave it, and it's good to get put on the loom. And then I need to transfer that to the back beam, wind it on, thread it through each heddle, which is like one of these needles, and then thread it through the reed, and then eventually you start weaving. But this is really the longest part of the process. It's just a bit fiddly though and tedious, but it's ordered, you know. You never have to panic because it's all tied up and it's just step by step. And this is like a more dense warp, because I've created a warp-faced weave, I guess. So warps are the threads that run up and down, and weft are the threads that run across. So this is more weighted in the warp. So you won't even see the weft in this one actually. I just wanted the strap. I was in a strappy mood. That's how I make pieces, it depends on my mood. Yeah, you can sort of build up cloth quite quickly really. So the setup's the slow part, and then weaving, you can weave quite quickly, really. Depends what you're doing, I guess. And this is just plain weave too, so it's very simple. You can create patterns depending on how you thread it, and then which petals you press. I've just been thinking a lot about how light passes through cloth and transparency, and how cloth can look so different against a wall versus suspended in the air. And also I love nets as well, like fishing nets. They're so interesting to me. So I guess this was just looking at that concept of space and openness. I've just spaced the warp out so that it's gappy. And honestly, I could pull it off and it could look like absolute nothing invisibility. But we'll see, it's all part of it, I guess. I'm not offended by that organicness. I think that That sort of spontaneity is something I seek in my work, but it's such a controlled sort of medium, and I'm quite controlled with it, that I find it hard to allow for that organic movement. And so something like this, it will move, and you can accidentally push threads to a different spot, and I'm interested in how that looks and how it looks over a little bit of time, and yeah, what it looks like when it's not under tension. Even how tightly twisted the weft is will make a difference as to whether it curls in or how it's formed as well.